To hear Mr. Khan and to see him. So if you wouldn't mind doing your photographs now in the in the next fantastic. Yeah. Oh, another one. Oh, this side. Oh my goodness. The room is filling with excitement now. We're going to give you a few more seconds, and then if I can ask you very kindly, when in our conversation, if you don't use your phones, if that's okay too much, so it's not distracting.
Yes, my problem is as soon as you do it, I'll go into a pose.
And then we'll lose track of the conversation. So just a few more seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for your cooperation. Wonderful. Oh, you just want to see? What do you mean see him? You want to hear him as well, of course. That's very important. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an insight and idea with the legend that is Shahrukh Khan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, just before I start speaking to you, Mr. Khan, I would just like to remind the ladies and gentlemen here, not that they need reminding, of how wonderful you are. Of course, Shahrukh is one of Bollywood's most prominent actors who's been at the forefront of the Indian film and television industry for over 30 years. Forbes have called him one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and Newsweek have named him among 50 of the world's most powerful people. He's used his influence to help others and has a deep commitment to improving child education and public health in India. He's working to improve the living conditions and rights of underprivileged people across the country. He's also the founder of the non-profit Mir Foundation, named after his father, which provides support to female victims of acid attacks and major burn injuries through medical treatment, legal aid, rehabilitation, and livelihood support. He's also been responsible for the creation of specialized children's hospital wards and has supported childcare centers with free boarding for children undergoing cancer treatment. He's the recipient of the World Economic Forum's Crystal Award 2018 for his leadership in championing children's and women's rights in India. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shahrukh.
It's been a long time since a lady sat so close to me and praised me so much. Thank you, Tanya. It's a long, long time.
Shahrukh, it's such a pleasure to see you here. And of course, you received the Crystal Award last night. It's a big honor. What did it mean personally for you? Because, of course, you've received many awards from around the world. You've been praised for all your work in your career so far. But what did last night mean for you?
To be honest, like I've always maintained this, and I think a lot of people, and I'm being very honest about it. I love awards, like I mentioned even last night, movie stars are meant to be narcissists, and we're supposed to be self-obsessed. And when we do a job, a film, or an act, you want to have the biggest award. And I'm, as a matter of fact, if I may say so, rather greedy for them. But having done this work, what I was doing, I had no idea, to be really honest, that awards like this exist. When you're doing, see, what I do as an actor is what I do, and it's good. And I always think it's the best, and I deserve the award. And when I don't get it, I believe maybe the guys didn't understand the amazing art form that I portrayed at that time. But for something like this, I'm not saying it with modesty, it's truly undeserving. Because, when I started working towards this actually 4 or 5 years ago, the foundation came in about 2.5, 3 years back, because we needed to regularize it. When I was working with these women, I went in with the concept of a huge amount of, how you are not narcissistically compassionate, that I'm doing a good thing, I need to do this. And that's how most people start, I think, or at least I did. And then I realized, being with them, that they didn't need any empathy. They're very brave on their own. They didn't need any charity. They just want a certain sense of solidarity. They just want you to be with them. And they don't need another definition, which we are only too eager as a society to keep giving women one after the other. When I say women in this case, because 85% of the people, acid attack victims, are women. And I just started feeling that they're doing much more for me after being in a profession where beauty is really looked up to and loved, and we are surrounded by it, and we are all the time talking about it, you know, from the smallest of things to the biggest things, how beautiful this is, how beautiful that is, how pretty films are. And then suddenly on this world where that beauty has been stolen away from you, and they don't need anything but just to be able to, you know, define themselves for themselves. So when I get this award, it actually is the first time in my whole career that I've gotten an award for somebody else's work, somebody else's courage, somebody else's great thoughts, and I genuinely believe that. I'm not saying it out of modesty. So it's really nice that I'm here, also meeting so many people who have a similar strain of thought as I have, on much larger scales in terms of you know, setting up foundations. That's something I don't know how to regularize as yet. So I'm here to learn, and I was very, very humble, and I'm extremely grateful for the award, and especially to Mrs. Schwab for holding it for so long while I gave a long speech. She's so petite and sweet, and she's holding that award. And I asked her, is it heavy? She said, no, it's not. It's all right.
But Jacques, you started the Mir Foundation in 2013, and of course you are helping women who have suffered horrific acid attacks and burns and these awful injuries. But what motivated you in the first place? Because, of course, using your global stage, using your global fame, you could pick a number of different initiatives, a number of different charities. So what made you start the foundation?
Actually, Tanya, it's the number. I was in a hospital. I had some physiotherapy to be done for my shoulder, and it's a hospital I go regularly to, and always visit. You know, everybody, kids and women and families, they come, please visit the rooms and all. So I always go for around late at night, so I don't disturb people. And there was this case of 2 kids from Kashmir whose house had been bombed, and I think they lost their family, and they had 60–70% burns. And at the same time, I wanted to buy a new PS3 had come out, a PlayStation, for my son, and the shops were closed. So I'd got a shop open because I'm a big movie star. And I got that PlayStation, and I then went to this hospital for my physiotherapy to bring this. And as I saw these kids, and they didn't even realize the extent of suffering they had, actually. They were so young.
Yeah.
And so I left the PlayStation there, and on the way I tried again to get the shop reopened for my son's PlayStation, but it failed. And I came and told my kids about it. And I think things happen by chance sometimes for the good, and I saw them, and they recovered over a year and a half. We got some really nice doctors to come down, look after them. My kids were of similar age then, a boy and girl. So it was, I guess, a more personal compassion also that came into being. You know, when you become a parent, then you become a little more compassionate and gentler. And then I met these ladies, you know, who had been victims. And I kind of started studying, finding out from people, and realized that officially there are only 400 acid attack victims in India. And there's so many issues we all can follow, like you said, and I participate in lots of them indirectly. My friends do it, and you know, sometimes your presence is important so that it gets a voice. So I do all that. But this, I thought, is such a, it's just a number. 400 is a number that I think I can individually, without really having to run from pillar to post, contain, rehabilitate, perhaps, and I pray for myself that my business becomes so big that I actually employ all of them with me. Instead of trying to find, so I have a small company which has a visual effects, and we make film production, and we run a cricket team, and I've been telling them, listen guys, grow your business, so we need more employment, so I get all these ladies to come, and it's only 400 people. And I'm sure at Davos, people have companies which have thousands of people employed. So I think if I can just self-employ them, they're just 400. So the number made me feel that I can really help this, and it will feel touchable help to me. That, we have been able to control lives of 400 people.
Yes.
And then on the other side, there's a whole policy part of it, how acid is sold in India. Then there's a law part of it, the oppressor, how they should be punished. And I want to tackle that later. And I have some really wonderful people. See, individually, I just thought I should just go to people who are already doing this work. So we have a body called Make Love, Not Scars. And there are these young boys and girls working with them. So they've been doing all the work. And Mir Foundation kind of connects with them. And we want to encompass everyone around the country and try to, sort it out. We hope so, opening some rehab centers. The last bit is to open a specialized hospital also. So we'll do that step by step, but contain it within ourselves. I don't know, I'm being selfish about it. I just want to do it myself. I just want to be able to get it done with like-minded people who feel the same about this as I do.
Shahrulh, women make up 80% of acid victims in India. And I just wondered, you talk about helping them and, of course, finding the solutions. But is there an argument to say, why is it happening in the first place? Why do you think there has been an increase? And what is the culture behind it?
We have now collected data, and we're doing this even geographically, that where all it happens more in the country and around the world, not just the country, and how some places, the increase in the punishment going up to death penalty in places has actually reduced this.
Okay.
But I think it is, it's the unfortunate same strain of thought where, we keep coming back to this, and it's really unfortunate that a woman is not allowed in a society to assert her choice more often than not. And it's as simple truth as that. And there are different ways and methods and level of brutalization that men go to so that women don't have the right to assert their choice. And this, I think, perhaps is the most brutal. Or one of, you can't actually quantify it and say this is most or not. But this is the unfortunate truth. And I think this categorization of women as a gender, which is whose choices have been taken away, or whose society is so keen to keep on defining and wanting this gender to stay in that definition. I think the problem stems from there. It's a larger issue, and as sooner that we can curb this and get this whole conversation of equality actually becoming true and clear, I think these kind of issues will get resolved on their own. But till then, yes, you need to make sure this oppression and this exploitation is kind of controlled by people who want to as much as we can.
How do you think people can take steps to change minds and to change hearts in respect to how women are treated in India? What do you think are the action steps that people can take to move this conversation, as you say, forward?
I think, there are 2-3 things I think which are going to happen. And so I'll try to speak in the larger perspective, not just in the Indian context.
Yes.
I think it's the methods of oppressing women are different in different parts of the world, but the oppression is what is common. I think this categorization of humanity that started, and I think categorizing people according to their biological differences is perhaps the oldest and the most primitive, so to state. And I think we are so scared of things that happen to us which are not familiar. We as human beings, even as specialized corporators and everything, we are so keen on putting things into boxes so that we understand them. And somewhere, because we were not so familiar or we were threatened by this biologically different creature called woman, we quickly put definitions and categorize. So you have to be gentler, you have to be sweeter, you have to be kinder, you can't sit with your legs open, and you have to, for most of the definitions were subservient to the other gender. And I think this categorization is going to fall through in some time. And for that, of course, all of us, and we'll have a lot of conversations, and every time we're talking about empowerment of women and how it has to change. But I think, this medium, the social medium itself that has changed, this communication that has started, for a bit, because we all got connected, I think for a bit is going to solidify these differences for a bit, and then they'll all just crack. I think it's going to be a natural phenomena of progression. But till such time, all I need to tell, I mean, of course, when I was yesterday, I think, one lady came up to me and said, you have to talk about how men should change their attitude towards women. Most certainly. But I would just like to tell women, and I don't need to actually, but I'll still say it, women just be women. I think there is nothing more equal than that, because a bully tries to oppress you, and two things happen. If you get oppressed, he's very happy. Even if you retaliate, he's happy because he got to you. But if you just remain as you are, the only thing we all look for is validation as human beings. Only thing the women are looking for is, please don't define us. We don't want to be defined by society. Let us just be who we are. So do not, there's a thing I was discussing with a friend of mine on the phone, that we even desexualize powerful women. It is the most shocking thing to me. Yeah. Sometimes they're powerful women, and we somehow desexualize them. That she's so much like a guy. She's such a man. The way she, because men are scared.
Yes.
Men are scared.
Do you think they are, Shahrukh?
Most certainly, I'm scared.
What are you scared of?
I'm scared of women loving me too much.
Okay, that's very different. That's very different. Shahrukh, I just want to ask you about if you feel that governments are doing enough. You're talking about this global conversation of changing attitudes to women around the world. Now, in 2017, the Indian government brought in new legislation to give acid attack victims official recognition. Do you think that's a big step forward? Do they need to do more? What would you like them to do?
No, huge step. I think that's extremely commendable, and I don't want to sound patronizing. They even, all hospitals are now given a certain amount of monies to look after them. Treatment has to be free of cost. But having said that, I think some people like us have to come forward, because rehab does take a long period in this case, So, and also there is a little bit of, understandably so, a bit of fear attached to, once this happens to a woman, in the areas that it happens, sometimes they want to go forth and get it even treated. It becomes like a stigma. It becomes, and it's a very scary thing, So a lot of women are not able to have access to all these programs that have come in. Of course, this recognition plus even the monies that are being given is a fantastic step. So I think the awareness part is something that we'd like to bring and go up to these women. That's why we are even trying to offer legal advice. We want to take them under our fold and say, listen, it's all cool, let's just get down, we'll get you treated. And yeah, there is money sanctioned by the government for this treatment, apart from the one that we can bring forth if we have to. So I think it is really a big step forward. And I think the next two big steps, which will happen, see, I think this is a fight nobody will have to fight for. I don't think as an organization one really needs to go out and say, do this quickly and all. I think it will be done. It is so blatantly wrong and oppressive and exploitative and then aggressive. I think the law will also change and become stronger against the oppressor in the coming days. And I think there will be more control, which already is there. I think 2-3 years ago, acid cannot, anything byproduct of acid or acid stuff cannot be sold across the counter. And some of the cases, like I think last year was not exactly 400, a little less than 400. So it is affecting, and these steps are fantastic and extremely welcome that are being done by the government.
Well, today we also saw Prime Minister Modi here at the World Economic Forum, the first Indian leader to be here in 2 decades. Shahrukh, what would you like what's his message that you would like in terms of women and improving things?
Well, 3 days ago, I think just before he came to Davos, and here, when I landed here, I was seeing one of his interviews. He hasn't done too many. I think this is the first one after a long time. And he said one thing which was most interesting, which he did today, which we're all very proud of, that I'm going to Davos to go and, in Hindi they say, dhindora pitna, to drum about the resilience of the Indian people in face of such strong changes as GST and demonetization and other stuff that is happening. And that's what exactly he's done in the speech, so that's nice. So he came and said, you know, if you want peace and you want prosperity, if you want happiness and health, and if you want wellness and wealth, come to India. So all that is it's like first time, like you said, in 20 years,
yes,
an Indian leader's here. And I think first time in some years, India is changing a lot. So it's wonderful for the Prime Minister to have come here, spoken the way he did. And his, you know, there is this whole drive he started with when he came to power, which is about, you know, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, which I think is outstandingly amazing. It must have been there, but he's brought it to the fore, that get the girls to be educated.
Yes.
That's how you'll get them to prosper and save them from being oppressed. So I think that's a big drive all over the place. And yes, these kind of drives take time. So I think they're going to show results very, very soon. Then there are some changes in the law, in the triple talaq law that is being done. So a lot of oppression to women. I think this government is giving a huge amount of onus upon looking after things that they can do for the betterment of women in the country.
So you feel he's doing enough?
Absolutely. I think this, you know, even just the thought of Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, I think is really nice. And I'm sure in different states, and, you know, there will always be, India is very diverse.
Yes.
It does become difficult to implement things as soon as you wish them to. But I think it's a great drive, and I think it's one of the most forward-moving drives. Personally, I like two of them, Make in India and Beti Padhao Desh, Beti Bachao. You know, I think these two are the best ones, where you want to make everything in India and get our ladies and girls to get more educated.
Shahrulh, I want to ask you about your own life now, if you don't mind, and where this motivation to help came from, because I know that you lost your father at a young age, and 10 years later you lost your mother, and you've always said that your mother, your sisters, your aunts, the women that when you first went to Mumbai, the big stars of Bollywood that helped you, have women played a very important role in your life, do you think?
How do I say this without sounding wrong? I don't spend time in the company of men.
Okay. I'm sorry, gentlemen, but you won't be spending time with me today.
Yeah. Well, I was 14 when my father died. So I had a mother. My mother had no brothers, and her father had passed away. So I had 3 aunts and a grandmother. And then my mother passed away. I have a sister who's unmarried, lives with me even now. Then I had a wife, and then I had a daughter. And in between these two, I started working with all the girls in the country when I became an actor. Yes. So I've not had the chance to be with men. Yeah. So I am naturally inclined towards women. I'm choosing my words very, very carefully, lest they are misconstrued. Yes. And, you know, when I started, I'm telling you, like, you know, my mother was very strong. Every boy's and every girl's mother is very strong. That's a given. I'm a movie star, which is a difficult business for any lady to handle. Yeah. My wife does that with amazing aplomb and quietude, and she's extremely strong. And then I started working with these women, and the whole idea of what a woman has changed when I started working with all the girls that I worked with. On the exterior, they're the most beautiful women, physically charming, attractive. They work harder than I do. They come 4 or 5 hours before I even land on the sets. They are, and I'll say this, I've seen it with my own eyes, or felt it, not seen it maybe. They are somehow considered secondary in the scheme of things of this film world. It's a man's world. Like I said, they work harder at everything. And at the end of it all, when the film ends, I take all the credit and become the biggest superstar in the world. Yeah. And they don't get anything out of it. You know, they're just Shahrukh Khan heroines. And the beauty of it is that knowing how unfair it is, they have not reduced themselves and gone into victimhood. I think that's something that I love about most of the women that I've spent time with. There is no giving in to victimhood. They are not turning around and saying, you know, God, what I can do, this world, you know, this is a man's world, and I do. None of them can. They have the courage, the bravery, the strength to realize that, you know what, this is how it's going right now. I do work harder than Shahrukh. I am better than Shahrukh. And I include my wife in it, my daughter in it, my sister in it, and all the girls I work with. And yeah, it's all right if he's sitting at Davos right now and giving the speech. We are not there. But they know they are the real strength. And because they know, I know that they know, I just love them and respect them so much. So when I got an opportunity like this, I'm like, I need to work with women. I know it may sound confusing, but it's the truth. I just want to work with women because here I found a set of women who are also actually, none of them, you know, there's Lady Gulnaz, there's Nidhi, there's Kanta. I meet them and they're really naughty and sweet, just like my heroines are. Their faces have been unfortunately disfigured, but they still smile with the same kind of madness that they must have earlier. And none of them have succumbed to victimhood. And working with these women, I realize I have got so much courage. You know, here I am cribbing about, my God, this film has not collected money, oh, that movie star. And I've been finding so many faults with my life in the last 10 years. And realizing that, God, I have so much more, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. I want a private plane and small little losses, things feel as if the world has come to an end, the whole world is against me, and you know, I've become such a victim. And then I started working with these ladies, and I realized there's nothing wrong with me. And I think that strength has only come because I've spent time with extremely strong women, and the strength is that they don't, they just wear it off the cuff. They're not saying it to the world. Neither does my wife talk like this, my sister or my daughter. And like I said yesterday, I really want to thank them for bringing me up well. That they've taught me that I have to request them to get a yes out of them. Sometimes implore, many times beg, but never, 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 never to force a yes out of them. So I think this way, the way my sister and my wife and my daughter have brought me up, just makes me feel a little more happy in the company of women. And I'm draining them of all the courage they have. I want to thank every woman, guys too. It's nice to, I mean, you're wonderful, and I'm not saying you're the oppressors, you all are wonderful. But I really want to thank every woman for allowing me to drain so much bravery from them and keep it in my heart. And I really am. I tell my two sons, I want to be a woman when I grow up.
Well, Shahrukh, it's very inspiring for everyone to see your passion about making a difference in terms of equality, in terms of everything that you're doing. And I just, as a final question, and I'm very sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but we have run out of time. Here at Davos, creating a shared future in a fractured world, what is your message?
I think, like I was saying, we are in a world which is, like I said, humanity is so strongly categorized. Even business-wise, you know, specialization and categorization is, we think it's specialization, and we've done it so strongly. I think it's going to change now. And I think Davos is completely right in bringing this to fore. Also, we will notice, you know, the chauvinism of some of these categorizations coming out very strong. Religion, the differences and categories we've created really strongly on social media. You'll be trolled and you'll think the whole world has gone mad. We are right now at the cusp of that. But you know, one has to realize that within this space where everybody is right now trolling and being so aggressive, and more strength is being given to these categories and differences of region, religion, caste, color, everything, and women, the underlying thing is that even to troll, you're connecting with people. You are going to connect to people. And I think Davos puts that message out very clearly. Let's connect, because that's the only way to overcome this fracture. Because we are connecting today here, we don't even know. I was just telling my team that, you know, we may have to connect with aliens also very soon. You know, we will, and find out how minuscule and small we are. And every movie, and so sorry to say, why is it that every movie the aliens are the aggressors? Have you ever thought we are projecting maybe us? Maybe they are not coming here because they think we are very aggressive. Maybe they're just waiting, calm down, let Earth calm down, and we'll just go down and tell them we come to make peace, you know. So I just feel that Davos is just saying it at the right time. That please come together, and this coming together, underlying coming together with the social media and all of us here, I think that is going to finally break this, is going to fracture the fractured world. It's just going to take away all these, you know, categorizations and just make them a thing of the past. And we'll, whatever we construct as humanity, as businessmen, as self-employed, as actors, as writers, as media people, whatever we construct is not going to go ahead if there is a disparity in terms of winners and losers. And I think at this point in time, even Davos itself, they realize that this globalization has let out some losers, and we need to take care of them. We just can't have the winners like me wanting to have a private plane. You have to, look after the losers too, and they have to be brought up to this level. So even if it's for business, business thrives, and that's why I said, power has to get out of the way of progress. We all have to get out of the way of progress. We just have to, these resources we were just gatekeepers. Some of us have been chosen by, I think by mistake, me, some by design, some by hard work, but we are the gatekeeper of resources. We are not the owners of those resources. And resources and human beings were created for equal usage. There were no differences. Equality is not a man-made criteria. We are not the ones who've brought out equality as a word. Yeah. We're just peddling it and using it as a product to sell. Post we have already created the categorizations and, now let's sell equality because we've made so many differences in people and make some more money. No, equality is a given by nature. Equality is given to us by nature. We're all equal by birth, and resources are to be treated equally. And some of us have just got to be gatekeepers. We need to open that up. And I think Davos is sending out that message. This year, this is my first time I've come here. So I'm really, really happy to be here. And I've never seen so much snow in my life. And I've never slipped so often on the snow in my life.
Careful.
And you too. And we found out, Tanya and me found out, when you slip on the snow, then you hurt yourself, then you come for a speaking session, then you concentrate more.
Yes.
Because the pain makes you sit down like this.
Yes, the focus.
And the focus is there. Yes. So thank you for the focus, Davos.
Well, Shahrukh Khan, thank you very much for your focus today. Thank you so much. Thank you.